Y'all ready to know my genetics? Okay, in all seriousness, today we're going to talk about 23andMe and my experience with it, what that means for me in the future, and just kind of my recommendations for anything like that. So I can only attest to 23andMe, that's the only genetic service provider that I've been through. I know there's like Ancestry.com and different like GenoPlate or something like that, but I specifically took the 23andMe and I did the health and the ancestry part of it. So this is something I've been wanting to do for literally the longest time. I took a genetics class, gosh, I think it was like 2 years ago, and we kind of briefly touched on that, and that's kind of where my interest with genetics started. I just found it really interesting. I love that class. The professor was great, and he kind of talked a little bit on it, and I really wanted to know more, so I went up to him, I asked him about his experience, and he definitely gave me a lot of good advice that I kind of want to share on here with you guys before I kind of dive into my results. So I'm gonna be using my phone a lot because I'm gonna be like scrolling through and showing you exactly what it looks like on the user interface. But before I do that, that being said, I did do the ancestry and the health. So I know a lot of people were concerned when they found out I was doing this, and they're like, oh, like, aren't you worried? Like, what if you have a variant? Like, what if you get this disease? And that's when I at first was like, okay, hold up. So just because you may or may not have a variant of a certain disease, so for example, BRCA with breast cancer, that's a very common one. If you have the variant, that does not guarantee you're going to get breast cancer. You may have an increased risk, but just like any diseases, here's disease, and then you have all these different factors tying into it. So yes, genetics could be a very heavy influential factor in being diagnosed with a certain disease, but there's also environment, lifestyle, culture, ethnicity. There's so many different things. So that being said, I personally kind of had the mentality where if I had a variant of a certain disease, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, like, oh, freaked out, but instead just, be more conscious. Okay, I may have a little bit of an increased risk, so knowing that, maybe going to get tested more, or just being more aware of how your body's feeling, like being more in tune with kind of your health. So I think that genetic testing is great. I know it can be kind of scary and some people just don't want to know, but if there's if you found out you may be predisposed and you caught it early, prevention and also just detection of so many diseases is a lifesaver. Colon cancer, breast cancer, any type of cancer, it's any type of really disease. If you can catch it early enough, and if you're just more aware and everything, that's critical, and it could save lives. So that's just kind of a little tip. And obviously, I'm not a healthcare provider. This is just my undergraduate knowledge. So it's very, very limited, and there's some really great videos on YouTube that kind of through 23andMe, and then also just other people and how to interpret these results. And then obviously if you're worried, you can go in and talk to a genetic counselor. Those would be the people, if you had any questions, to reach out to them, because they would, obviously I'm just a student, I don't know very much. So yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it. Ooh, before I forget, so I know this kit usually retails for $199. I did not pay that much because I don't have the time money to spend on that. So instead, wait for a sale. Usually they have really good sales around like Mother's Day, Father's Day, probably the big holidays, because it goes further on sale, $199 to $169 plus, so this is the good thing. If you are a student, I'll put that in the link below, but they actually have a student discount. So I got all of that information for $99, which is like $100 off the original price. 100% recommend it. If you're a student like me who's also in the sciences and finds genetics really interesting, I think that medicine and healthcare is going to progress in the way that they're either going to require DNA testing so doctors can be more prepared, or somehow, and then all the new technology, the biotechnology, CRISPR, and like all these different things, I think is going to be very influential in the course that medicine will be taking. So if you're interested in health, medicine, anything like that, science, definitely recommend just taking it and being more informed about it. that's a big thing as well. So watch all the videos and do all the things. So yeah, anyways. So first up, we're gonna go through my ancestry. So I've already looked at this, so I've already seen it, but I think it's just really interesting because a lot of it, so some of it I was like, okay, that makes sense, but some of it I was like, where did that come from? Like, I have no idea. So anyways, I'm gonna do like a little screen recording. So basically, this is kind of what it looks like when you get on your site. There's gonna be an Ancestry tab, there's gonna be a health tab, research, connections, stuff like that. So Ancestry first. So the first thing, there's like this big block and it says, find out where you're, or what you're made out of. So let's take a click. So what's not surprising is the British and Irish, because I do know that like literally 2 generations back, maybe, I had people who actually moved from Britain to Canada. So that would be my great grandfather on my mom's side. So yeah, for the sake of time, I won't click through everything just because it's gonna be a long video. But for example, if I were to click that, British and Irish, especially since that's a huge chunk of my DNA, it's like 66.1, it tells you just a little bit about Britain. So there's just a lot of interesting little tidbits and facts. It tells you where they think you may be from. So it says Greater London, Greater Manchester. I actually know that's not true. They're from more of like the sea, I think, towards like that side, the western side, but don't quote me. Ireland, it kind of tells you I'm a likely match where in Ireland I'm from, so pretty interesting. Yeah, so it's just kind of a cool way to kind of little history lesson in the middle of it. So yep, and then this is the part I was really just like, what the heck? Scandinavian, I'm 7.3, which is actually fairly significant. I'm not sure where that comes from, so in the future I'd like to kind of pursue like the ancestry.com side of this so I can kind of trace back and see like my roots. 7.2% French and German. I think I did have a little bit of an idea about that, but not that much. I thought I was gonna be like 100% British and be like, that's it. So that was interesting. And then I'm 0.6% Spanish and Portuguese. I have no idea. Interesting. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So now let's dive into kind of some of the other factors. So the next one is the ancestry timeline. So if I click that, it tells you how many generations back they're guessing that I had like that family member, like where they came from. So British and Irish 1 to 2, not surprising. French and German and Scandinavian 3 to 5. So that's really not that long ago. So I really want to kind of dive into that within the next year to kind of see who are my connections into that. And then Spanish and Portuguese 5 to 8 plus. So that's pretty far back, but pretty interesting. And then parental inheritance. So if my parents were to take this DNA test, I can kind of link them to my account and I can see like which genetic traits I got from who. So that's kind of cool. I'm gonna have to peer pressure them into doing this. DNA painting and scientific details, that's more of, it kind of has the chromosomes and it like highlights different portions. So if you're like super nerdy into genetics like I am, you can kind of click through that and it'll show you like where on the chromosome they're linking certain things to. So like, for example, ethnicity, British and Irish, those are the parts of my chromosome they believe come from that, or like that are more common in that population. So another cool feature, I won't click on it just for privacy, but if you have, this is kind of cool, kind of like weird at the same time, but if you have family members that have also, so you have to take the 23andMe test, like they're obviously not going to know your DNA, hopefully, if you did not take this test, but if you click that, it actually shows you. So I have like a family member fairly close to me that took this test and it's like 13.5% of your DNA is the same. So we predict that this is so-and-so like relationship wise to you, which it is. So that's just kind of really neat because I have family members on there that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you took the test as well. And you can kind of connect with them. And then also like you can see people, some of them like obviously not super like closely related, but it's like you share 4% of your DNA and you're like, who's this person? I have no idea. So it's really cool actually. So Neanderthal ancestry, it kind of looks back at how many variants you have in your DNA that are different from what they believe the original Neanderthal genetic makeup was. So if you click that, if you could guess, I'm not very similar to what they believe are the most ancient of humans. I actually have 316 areas in my DNA that is different. So that is more than 96% of 23andMe customers. So super interesting, I guess. But yeah, if you kind of scroll down, it kind of tells you like different things, like just kind of funny things. So straight hair, yep, I have pretty much straight hair. It gets wavy sometimes, but pretty much straight. Less likely to sneeze after eating dark chocolate. Okay. Less black hair. You can't tell, this is actually a little customized, but pretty much I've naturally like brownish blonde hair. And then height, so I'm not super tall, but I guess I'm tall enough. So yeah, interesting. And then if you click that, it kind of tells you a little bit more. So anyways, paternal haplogroup, so that's only for males. That's something they carry on the Y chromosome, so don't have that. So maternal haplogroup, so I won't kind of get into the nitty gritty, but basically you can trace your ancestors back all the way pretty much through your mitochondria DNA, because so when a mother has a child, no matter if you're a boy or a girl, she always is going to pass down her mitochondrial DNA. And it's, so basically the DNA I have in my mitochondria is all the way back from basically the first lineage of who I am. So pretty interesting. So I'm in maternal haplogroup 5, which I believe it says it's like fairly common. If I'm somewhere down here, it's like fairly common. So this is kind of the trace or like the route that my ancestors took. So if you click it, it kind of tells you a little bit about each haplogroup. So for time's sake, I'm just gonna kind of, see, it says it's frequent. So, and I guess I can maybe in some of my future interviews, I can be like, yeah, I'm related to Benjamin Franklin, no big deal. But anyways, so yeah, that's the ancestry part of it. There's definitely a lot of areas I did not cover, but it was so interesting. I know, I was looking through and I was like, this is awesome. So without further ado, let's go into the health part of it. Basically, there's different tabs. There's a lot. So there's carrier statuses, health predispositions, traits, and wellness. So just keep in mind, just all the things I said in the beginning. But anyway, so carrier status, they actually test for a whole bunch of basically diseases. So these are actually more, these are genetic. So if you carry any like cystic fibrosis, that is a genetic disease. So I believe that is a recessive. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've had genetics, but that means that with each of these traits, you're going to have different alleles that you inherited from your parents. And let's just say that mom and dad are both carriers for a disease. If they, by random chance, happen to pass down the alleles for this certain condition, and you get both of them and it's a recessive disease, then you're going to get this disease. So, but anyways, I have no variants for any of these things. That's pretty good for me, I guess. So pretty happy about that. But yeah, they have so many different things that they test for. And then if you click on any of them, so let's just click on solid disease. I'm not sure what that is, but it kind of tells you exactly what it is and like where they believe it is in the genome. So how, big thing, under every condition it says how to use this test. This test does not diagnose any health conditions, so make that very clear. If you have a concern, go to a genetic professional. So health predispositions, so this is more where genetics kind of gets wishy-washy with these diseases. So obviously it does play into it, but like I said, there's so many different factors. So if we click that, I had 2 variants. So for example, Alzheimer's disease, late onset, slightly increased risk, but I believe that a lot of people may, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think a lot of people have this variant because, you know, with age comes a gradual decline in cognition. So, but I don't have any of the BRCA, no variants, no Parkinson's disease. That's obviously a disease very close to my heart, but I do not have variants for that. So I was happy about that. Hereditary hemochromatosis. So it says variant detected, not likely an increased risk. So, and then that's the same with any of these diseases. Like one gene does not mean, like there could be multiple genes that play into this one disease. So it says I have a slightly increased risk. So basically I kind of looked into that and it means that I may absorb too much iron. I typically don't really eat a lot of super iron-rich foods, such as like beef and stuff. So just be more cautious about that, what I'm eating. That's why I'm kind of a nutrition minor. I find it really interesting how nutrition ties into the progression of diseases, but that's a story for another time. So anyways, pretty interesting. So traits, this is the kind of the fun part. So this, based on your genetics and like, I guess what, it's not like set in stone obviously, because you know there's so many things that go into the expression of different genes, but these are just some things that they've, I guess, possibly can happen to me. I don't really know exactly. So widow's peak, likely no widow's peak. So yeah, I guess my genes are right about that, or that was properly expressed. Wake up time, likely to wake up around 8:53. Maybe sometimes, I guess on the weekends, that's like fairly fair, but I'm actually a pretty early riser, but that also, like I said, genes does not determine like everything. There's a lot of different factors into that. So like based on schooling and stuff, I have an 8:30 class, so I usually get up at 6, and through my environment and through time, like how time has passed and just how I've conditioned myself, I consider I'm a pretty early riser and I'm not a night owl at all. So anyways, that was like a tangent. Likely no unibrow, so true. Sweet versus salty, likely prefer salty. I grew up with lots of sweets, so that might have been like an environmental thing where I'm just more conditioned to sweet foods, so I don't know about that. Likely no red hair, newborn hair, likely little baby hair. I didn't have hair till I was 1. Even then, like my mom was worried that I would be bald for the rest of my life, so that was definitely something that was expressed. Mosquito bite frequency, likely bitten more often than others. Depends. In Canada, yes. But here, not so much. Hair thickness, less likely to have thick hair. That's true. I did not get that gene. My dad and my sister have, and my brother, but me and my mother do not have that gene. So anyways, freckles, likely to have freckles, especially in the sun. You can't tell I have big fun right now, but yep. Fear of public speaking, more likely to have a fear of public speaking. Yes, I can hear my heart beat out of my chest, even though if I'm perfectly prepared, I still feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. So, yeah, so there's just a lot of really cool traits on here. Kind of fun to see. It's more of just like a fun thing. And then the last one is wellness. So caffeine consumption. So these are just like how your DNA may affect like your response to certain things. So caffeine consumption, likely to consume more. I used to drink like 10 cups of coffee a day. I was a caffeine addict, and I decided that was really bad for me. So I've now cut myself off at 3 cups a day. So it's been going pretty good for me. Deep sleep, less likely to be a deep sleeper. I don't know about that. I'm like notoriously known every time like I sleep with my sister, she's like, you sleep with your mouth open, you drool, and I'm like, okay, well at least I'm getting a good night's sleep. So sleep movement, likely average or less movement. Another thing that I don't know was exactly expressed in my DNA, because I'm also notorious for talking in my sleep and sometimes kicking and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's a lot of like research. So some of this they get through, so you will like answer certain questions or like things, and then they'll kind of correlate certain traits with different things. So exactly, so kind of like alcoholism, I guess that's a study that I would have to click, and then they would kind of inventory my lifestyle and compare it to my genetic test, and then compare that with other people who have similar, I don't know. So it's really interesting, and there's so much you can do with it, and I personally think it's just an awesome thing. I think I know this is like, whoo, I think that everyone should do it though, because I think it's just so interesting to kind of find out like what makes you you, and I think that's so personal and so it makes science seem, I guess, like more real, if that makes sense. Because I know for me as like a science student, you're always learning about like these microscopic processes, and you're like, oh my gosh, like how does this relate to me? Like you just can't really relate. That's what I'm trying to say. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it's kind of a long video, but I'm really glad you guys decided to kind of care enough to come see. So yeah, that being said, I will see you guys hopefully for another video soon. So, alright, bye.